practice more.
Smash players have been maining Captain Falcon for decades, without realizing the Falcon Punch was never only made from the ground up for Smash. And once you trace the attack from its multiple converging sources, Captain Falcon stops becoming just a meme and starts making a lot more sense. Captain Falcon, Smash, hype. Everybody knows who this is, but nobody really knows where he came from, or why he's even really all that special. F-Zero's biggest enemy is the statement, "I don't know what that is."
What the hell?
That's where I come in.
Let's go.
The biggest misconception around Captain Falcon is that Super Smash Bros. Invented his personality and fighting style out of thin air, when in reality, Sakurai was just interpreting an existing, if scattered, portrayal. By the time Smash 64 started using Nintendo characters from 1998 to 1999, Falcon already existed as more than just a faceless racer, not in a single unified gameplay form yet, which was the problem. At that point in time, Falcon's personality did not come from F-Zero GX or the F-Zero anime, both of which wouldn't come out until 2003, 5 years after Smash 64 released in 1999. Instead, his characterization lived in secondary media. The story of Captain Falcon comic included with the original F-Zero's manual in 1990. Famitsu comic cameos beginning with Famitsu number 199 from October 9th, 1992, the 200-page light novel F-Zero to the Gods of Speed, BS F-Zero Grand Prix 1 and 2 broadcasts, which served as a semi-sequel to the original game, and lastly F-Zero X, which further mythologized Captain Falcon. Crucially, Famitsu matters here. Sakurai has openly followed Famitsu since its early days, and many of the attached images show exactly the kind of bombastic Tokusatsu adjacent Falcon that appears in those comics. Exaggerated poses, dramatic punches and kicks, cocky body language, and theatrical confidence. That version of Falcon already existed years before Smash. Smash simply gave it mechanical form. Personality first, movement second. One of Sakurai's most consistent, non-negotiable rules is that personality comes first. That matters a lot for Falcon because before Smash, Falcon didn't have a traditional combat style or moveset. F-Zero is a racing series, so what Sakurai lacked in direct references was made up for in energy. And at the time of Smash's creation, Falcon's personality was defined by swagger and disrespect, physical bravado and hand-to-hand combat from the comic from the original F-Zero manual, and a larger-than-life, almost superheroic presence. Captain Falcon's portrayal in Smash was also further shaped by Tokusatsu hero imagery, most notably Kamen Rider. The exaggerated wind-ups, flaming finishers, and dramatic posing of the Falcon Punch and Falcon Kick echo classic Tokusatsu choreography where heroes defeat villains through decisive, close-quarters finishing blows rather than prolonged exchanges. This influence aligns perfectly with the bombastic personality already seen in Famitsu's comics and early F-Zero materials. That's why Falcon's Smash moveset feels flashy, risky, and aggressive. What may seem random on the surface was actually Sakurai asking, if this guy fights like he races, what does that look like? The answer became extremely fast, extremely powerful, high commitment, high reward, no zoning, no gimmicks, no safety net, and just like the Blue Falcon, Falcon himself hits hard, moves fast, and relies purely on skill. Fans often assume the Falcon Punch was invented whole cloth for Smash, and some of those fans use that misconception to either write off F-Zero as boring, or scapegoat Super Smash Bros. Into stealing Falcon's true identity, but the visual evidence tells a completely different story. Those Famitsu comic panels from 1992 already show energy-forward punches with onomatopoeia, dramatic wind-ups, and emphasis on fists as spectacle. Smash cooked the ingredients F-Zero already had. Later F-Zero material retroactively canonized what Smash had expressed mechanically. F-Zero GX's credits theme explicitly names the Falcon Punch. The F-Zero GP Legend anime depicts Captain Falcon and other F-Zero characters in a handful of fight scenes, along with Falcon delivering a literal, decisive Falcon Punch in the final episode. But it's important to be precise here. The anime didn't inspire Smash. Smash inspired later canon to solidify what was already implied. There's also a persistent myth that Falcon exists because Smash needed a generic human fighter archetype that built off of the assets of its prototype, Dragon King the fighting game. But by the time Falcon was added, those prototype human figures were already long gone. Falcon was built off of Samus, which explains some of their shared animations, like up tilt and dash attack. The original Dragon King fighters didn't even use specials, which meant that Falcon's iconic flame-based moves were an original idea, not a convenience. In other words, Falcon wasn't a placeholder, he was a deliberate character choice shaped by Sakurai's respect for the F-Zero mythos and Falcon's underutilized potential. Do you know where Show Me Your Moves comes from? It comes from the Famitsu comic. Captain Falcon is compelling because he sits on the intersection of sparse primary canon, strong secondary media characterization, and a designer willing to take interpretive risks. And like Fox McCloud, Falcon's moves are metaphorical extensions of his vehicle. Smash expressed what F-Zero is in a physical form in a way that had never been done before. You think Falcon not using his gun in Smash was a creator oversight? No, that's the entire point. While Captain Falcon does use a gun in other F-Zero media, Smash emphasizes a fighting style that mirrors how F-Zero itself plays, fast, aggressive, and unforgiving at close range. Just as the Blue Falcon races without traditional weapons, relying instead on precision, speed, and risk-heavy maneuvers, Falcon's Smash moveset commits entirely to hand-to-hand combat. This keeps his gameplay identity cohesive, expressive, and faithful to the spirit of his series rather than its literal tools. And that's why the idea that Sakurai made Falcon up falls apart under scrutiny. What he actually did was dig deep, take liberties where necessary, and trust the personality that already existed, even if most fans hadn't even seen it yet. That mix of restraint, interpretation, and bold invention is exactly what makes Captain Falcon such a fascinating example of character design done right.
I shook up the world! Man, I'm finna whip this hoe.